You're listening to Unfiltered, real talk about sex and love with Ashley.
And Heather. And on today's episode, we're going to answer questions about navigating passion, sex, and physical touch. And sometimes these kind of questions I find really interesting because they tend to get into people are just laying it all out there and being vulnerable. And I really love that and appreciate these questions. So I'm going to jump in with the first one. She says, our sex life confuses me. My husband expects me to engage instantly, even after disconnection, yet refuses intimacy unless I'm fully enthusiastic. I'm willing, even when not interested, but he won't proceed unless I'm all in. We feel like we live separate lives. Could this be affecting our intimacy? That would be really challenging. That would be difficult to just kind of have to flip a switch and be on and to engage in sex, because we know that women we're not like that. You know, if we have dishes in the sink and laundry on the couch or whatever, and our husband wants sex, it's like, that's what I'm going to be thinking about is laundry and dishes while we're trying to have sex. And so I just think though that there is, I don't know, it's a little bit telling that she feels like they live separate lives and asks if that could be affecting their intimacy. And it probably really is, especially if between having sex that there really isn't much emotional intimacy or other kinds of intimacy. I'm sure that that's probably affecting her and them.
Yeah, and there is research that, that will explain if you've had conflict within, 24 hours-ish for a female brain, that can be really challenging to not just engage in sex, but be present and be able to orgasm, which is like you want to be present if you're having sex. You don't want to just check a box because it's what your spouse wants to do, especially if you're feeling torn up inside. And so I know Jake Porter does a lot of work on rupture and repair. If you're just constantly feeling ruptured and then it's like, okay, let's have sex before there's that repair, kind of what that brain, research suggests, then it is creating more damage, because then you're actually infusing more thoughts and feelings of feeling used, feeling underappreciated, feeling uncared for, because you're trying to express what you need and your husband is not really taking that into consideration or showing any empathy or compassion for that. And so that can be really difficult, because especially the part like, well, he wants me to be more enthusiastic. And it's like, okay, we're not willing to sit down and say, I need some emotional connection here before we just jump right back into sex. And then on top of that, you want me to act a certain way. And so, again, I would want to make sure that this husband has done his work on sexual health. I almost think they need a break from sex, and that would be done with a professional therapist that understands sexual addiction and betrayal trauma and could help them just kind of recalibrate, So that would be my suggestion, is get into group and find a counselor or therapist that can help you and walk, or coach, that can walk alongside you while you maybe take 90 days break from sexual intimacy and just like bring it back down, learn how to connect again. And also that he can learn how to connect with her sexually without needing her to do all these things in order to feel satisfied.
Right. Yeah. Because I can imagine that puts a lot of pressure on her, which then also is going to minimize how enthusiastic she is about sex, because it's not authentic.
Right. So, and it's like, okay, so I need to be fake and I need to perform because that's not how I'm feeling.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that would be confusing.
Yeah. We're not endorsing.
No.
So, okay. Next question is, my sex addicted husband won't have sex even after 5 months sober. He avoids it. He can't perform without porn or escorts. And even Viagra isn't reliable. I try, I'm willing, but he pulls away. What now? Will we just become roommates? Can he heal? Do I accept a sexless marriage? And so I think this is going to be heavily, like the whole sexless marriage part is going to be heavily fully in recovery and wanting to pursue getting to a place where their sexual intimacy and relational intimacy is healthy. And so again, same thing for this one. I think there needs to be like some recalibration here. If she's saying he can't perform without porn and escorts, then he's clearly trained his brain, and his arousal template is so set on that. Now his wife is not doing it for him anymore, and this isn't working. And so we need to bring it back down. We need to take away, it's like the dopamine detox, that we learned about at the ITAP symposium. There needs to be a dopamine detox. He needs to bring it back down and rewire his brain to go back to being excited and aroused about his spouse. And so if he hasn't done group, if he hasn't seen a sexual addiction therapist, then that would be the first recommendation. And then for her to get her own support so she knows how to, if he's willing to do those things, how to come alongside him and support him, but not in a way that's enabling. Because just being willing to do what he wants to do and then he pulls away, that's really hard on a spouse.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why I think there's been so much recent research about how this big population of young men are struggling with erectile dysfunction because they have so trained their brain to respond only to porn or only certain types of behaviors or porn and masturbation that then they can't have sex with a real person because they've train their brain that way. And so that's what really happens is when you engage in like 90 days abstinence, even within the marriage, that the brain, and at first that's going to feel really uncomfortable because you are definitely going through withdrawal symptoms, but you have to like take away everything else and go into that depressive state a little bit so that then your brain will reset, go back to baseline, and then you can create something new. But it's hard work. It's really hard work for both people in the relationship.
Yeah, and it's maddening because this is part of my story where where God gave John a huge tell. He has struggled performing sometimes when he's engaging in these behaviors and I understand how she feels. Like if doing A causes B and that's destructive to our marriage, why do you keep doing it? Like it's so frustrating. And so I would put your foot down and say, I need us to pursue health and get to a place where we can enjoy our marriage. And this sex life is not only not enjoyable for me, but it's damaging to me. And so we're going to put a pause in this and we're going to pursue health. And he's either going to choose to do that and lean into it, or he's going to say, well, I'm not doing that. I'm leaving. But either way, she shouldn't be subjecting herself to this kind of damage over and over and over when, he avoids it. Will we just be roommate? He's pulling away. So, maybe her being very honest, and you can be loving and honest at the same time is what he needs.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So the last question, these are challenging situations to be in. I mean, we know we've worked with enough women and one or both of us have been in these situations. We understand firsthand. So we're not telling you to do something hard that we haven't done or walked very closely with somebody who's done. We understand that it's just it feels unfair, and it is. It's just part of that broken, fallen world where other people's sin and brokenness falls on us and impacts us, and it's hard because then we have to do something with it. So the last question is, could you discuss how to navigate touch in a relationship after betrayal? My husband, currently separated and sleeping on the couch, doesn't understand why I can't stand being touched, even a hug. His touch feels like taking from me, and I feel gross when I don't desire it. How can we address this? So I've been there. I would say definitely it's good you're asking how to address it, because there's that idea that just like, I need some time. And if you're not doing time and processing, it's not going to help, So then you're still going to struggle with those things later. And so it's great that you're asking, how can I handle this? And so I would have a plan. I would either with a group, with your Betrayal and Beyond group, or with somebody who's trained in betrayal trauma, I would be working intentionally, like what what's the goal? Is the goal reconciliation? Is the goal being able to be back in bed together, sleep together, touch again? And if that's a mutual goal and you're both willing to engage in it, then starting to unpack, like, what are you feeling in this moment? What does it bring you back to? And a therapist or your group is going to be able to help you identify some of those feelings that will naturally come up in the questions and betrayal and beyond. Those kinds of things just tend to draw up to the surface. Or if you're working with the therapist, to understand, where am I triggered? Why am I triggered? What feelings and thoughts is it bringing up? What do I need to do to process that? Do I need to have boundaries? Do I need to reframe a situation? Do I need a conversation with my spouse? All those little things. It's not, it's not an easy, quick fix. It's going to be a process. And then when you're feeling like, okay, there's a little bit of desire in me again to feel touch, then working to reintegrate that very slowly. So it might just start off with holding hands while you're walking in the mall. And then as that starts to feel okay and not triggering, you may move to, okay, well, now we can hold hands while we're sitting closely on the couch watching a movie. And then if that's okay, well, let's try having you sleep in the bed. Maybe that's too much. Bring it back. Say, okay, I'm not ready for that. Let's bring it back, and continue to just work toward feeling safe with touch again.
Yeah. And it can be a really challenging process. And my experience with this isn't exactly the same, because I was married before, but at one point in my current marriage, my husband, Michael, he went to touch me and I like slapped his hand away, which is uncharacteristic of me. But yet I was feeling triggered by something from my first marriage. But because it was almost like my brain was like, this has happened before. This is how you fight back. And so then just having to talk through that. And then also, even when it came to that specific type of touch, having to practice that. Because if it was something very specific, then I felt like, okay, am I ever going to get over this? Am I ever going to, not have this same strong reaction? And so once I was, like you were saying, you got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm okay. Let's try this, but let's practice this. Yeah. And then if I start to feel triggered, then, okay, we're done practicing this and we're going to take it a step back. But still, especially if you're responding in a way that is not your normal response, I think that's always a really big indicator that, okay, my body, my brain is not happy with what's happening now. And so we need to take it back and work through this specifically.
Yeah. And I've shared that on one of the episodes about my situation with the kissing and like something triggering me, and me having to, because I had done so much betrayal and beyond work and my own and unraveled work, I'd really, done a deep dive into that. So I knew it wasn't something I needed to process with John. Like, there's something with John that made me feel unsafe. I knew it was something old coming up. And so just putting in that mental reframing was what I needed to do in that phase, and I don't know if this person has fully processed through their betrayal or what. So if you haven't done betrayal and beyond, you haven't done therapy, that would be the place to start. If you have, and this is kind of like you're saying, some old trigger that popped up, then you may need to have a conversation with your mentor, your leader, your therapist, your friend, and then help your brain reframe, like, okay, this is not the same situation. I'm safe. This is okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining our conversation today. If you can think about it, we should be talking about it. So please email us your questions at unfiltered@puredesire.org. We read all of them. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to like it and share it with a friend.